Okay. Okay, so hello. Welcome to week 2 of this CAD class. I'm very excited to have you here again. So last week we covered basic sketches and revolves. Today we're going to go into that a little bit more. We're going to teach you some more advanced techniques to kind of take your sketches to the next level, allowing you to create, more complex objects. Um, So I touched on this a little bit last week. I talked about a little bit about constraints. So a lot of the stuff we were using last week was dimensional constraints. So we used the dimension tool, and we were making things like telling the circle to be a certain diameter or rectangles to be certain lengths, and then creating like geometric, I mean, dimensional constraints being like, oh, this corner should be this far away from the origin, right? But in math, I'm sure you've taken geometry, or at least I hope you have. There's a bunch of different constraints that we can use using geometry, right? And those are called geometric constraints. So here's a bunch of them here. A lot of them are things that you've probably heard of, like something being parallel or perpendicular. We can use those in CAD to kind of clean up our drawings and make things easier for us to read and easy for us to change later. So the top one is coincident. It's basically when you take something and you want it to be exactly on top of something. So you could take like a point on the edge of a line, and you could be like, oh, I want this point to be coincident to the center of a circle, right? And then you would click the center of the circle on the edge of the line, and then click the coincident tool, and then it'll do that. The collinear tool will basically make two lines on the same line, so that makes sense. Concentric is making two circles have the same center point. Midpoint is like taking a line and then having another line going through the center of it. So that one's pretty useful. The fix and unfix, we're going to be using it like once today. I recommend that you kind of stay away from it just because it's kind of like a cheat for making things fully constrained when 99% of the time you can use another constraint to do it right. So please avoid the fixed constraint, but we're going to tell you that it exists today. But yeah, parallel, perpendicular, I hope you know what that is. There are a couple other ones like horizontal and vertical, just making sure that they're horizontal and vertical in relation to the plane that you selected. Tangent is also very useful. I used it a little bit last week, but it's to make like a circle and a line kind of like butt up against each other, which is cool. Smooth, I don't know, I don't really use it that much, but it's there. Equal is also nice. Instead of like dimensioning like a bunch of lines the same length, you can just set them all to be equal and then change one number, and then they'll all change together. So today's mostly teaching you like better practices to clean up your sketches and then make it easier to edit later. And then yeah, symmetry. So yeah, we're gonna be we have this like little constraint worksheet. I forgot to upload it, so just give me a second here. But I'm gonna send you guys this file on the Discord, and you guys can download it, and then I'll go through a couple of them, and then you can work on it independently and all that fun stuff. Okay.
His Discord link is expired, by the way.
Oh, that is awesome. Okay. Do you think you can email me, and then I'll send you a new Discord link? Yeah. Okay. Let me find this file real quick. Okay. I'm gonna put it under resources for you. Okay. Yeah. So you should be able to download it. It's a Fusion file. Pretty sure it should work.
Anybody else having trouble with accessing Fusion? Want to make sure everybody can access the software.
Okay. Did you email me?
And can you all also fill in the attendance for today? attendance is a way for us to track whether you're showing up to class or not. A lot of people in the wait list. Yes.
All right, so does everyone have this file open yet? Raise your hand if you don't have this open. Okay, were you able to find it? No? Okay, the file is on the Discord. If you go under resources, it should be this assignment 4 geometric constraints. Yeah? Okay, raise your hand if you still don't have it open or if you're having trouble with it. Okay.
Just want to make sure everybody has filled in the attendance for tonight. From the Discord, are you able to access Discord? So once you go to the Discord page, I'm not saving this one. Anybody else having trouble accessing the files with confusion? Any other confusion regarding the last week or this week?
All right, so let's go. I don't know if you started already. But basically what we're gonna do, I'm gonna click this front plane here just so it makes it nice and flat. It has like a bunch of sketches that aren't the way that we want them to be in this case, right? So we're gonna want to edit the sketch and then edit the different lines and circles to make it like follow what it says above, right? So if you don't know, you can go back and edit your sketches on Fusion, which is really nice because you can change things later. So if we go in the timeline, right click the sketch, which is like this little square. It looks just like the sketch button, but without the plus on it. I can right click it and then press edit sketch. And then now it'll allow me to manipulate these lines however way I want it, right? So they're blue because they're not constrained anywhere. So we're going to constrain them. They're not all going to be black. I was talking last week about them being black, but for this assignment, since they're all just kind of floating, they're probably not going to be fully constrained, but that's okay. This assignment is just to teach you all the things that you can use. So the first one is make it perpendicular, right? So we want this line over here and this one to be perpendicular to each other, right? And we could use the sketch dimension and then like click these two lines and make it 90 degrees, but now we can use geometric constraints, right? So over here, you see these little red icons. These are all your geometric constraints. Not all of them are here. So if you want to go and look at more of them, there's more down here, right? A lot of the like more used ones are typically up here, but you can change it to be however you like. But anyways, I'm going to start by making this one perpendicular, right? So I'm going to hold shift, and then I'm going to click this line, and then I'm going to click this line, and then I'm going to find the perpendicular tool. So over here, there's perpendicular. I think I selected the point too, so it's not letting me. So I'm going to do it again, this line and this line, and then perpendicular, it lights up, it lets me choose it. So if I click on it, bam, they're perpendicular, no way. So that one's good if you're following along. So, uh-oh, that's not good. Okay, cool. So this one says make these three parallel to one another. So I'm going to select these three. Oh, oops. I'm still on the perpendicular tool. So I'm going to select the parallel tool. I'm going to click these two. They're kind of like on top of each other. I'm going to click these two. And then I'm just going to pull this over here. But yeah, now these are all parallel to each other. You can see like if I don't know, if let's say I fix that end and I like start rotating this, I'm manipulating one line, but all of them are going together. So that's what we want, right? So yeah, this one says dimension circle number 3 to 2 inches. Fix circles 1 and 2 and make 3 tangent to 1 and 2, right? So that means I want the circle number 3 to be 2. Oh, oops. No. Okay. I'm going to make this 2 inches, right? So the circle got a bit smaller. It wants us to fix circles 1 and 2. So I'm going to fix them with the lock tool. Again, most of the time you won't be using this, but we're just showing you it exists. And then I'm going to make this one tangent to both of them. So the tangent tool, I'm going to click these two. They're tangent, and then I'm going to click these two. And now those are tangent. But yeah, that's the basics. I'm just going to let you guys go free for like a good 10-15 minutes. And then I'm just going to walk around and see if you guys need any help. So yeah, go for it. Raise your hand if you need help. But yeah.
You can sit here. We want to walk around and see if we can find something. A shortcut key for the dimensioning tool is B. Press B and it should start the dimensioning tool, and then you can dimension everything. That's a shortcut key, I think. Instead of clicking every time dimensioning, dimensioning that. So Berkeley's just on market, the mental something. That's how you get Because I even have any other questions regarding that file. Just to make sure that these three circles need to be like horizontally bound. Right? Not
All right, let's move on. Okay, so hopefully you guys got geometric constraints down. We're going to be using it a lot in this class, and you will probably use it a lot if you CAD after this class. So it's a good idea to practice them, or at least try to use them when you're designing things, just so it's easy to change later. But yeah. Okay, next we're going to be creating a gear tool, or a gear. This is a very simple gear. It's not like we're not doing like tooth pitch and stuff like that, but it's a cool tool gear. So to start out, we're gonna want to make a sketch. You know, we're gonna have a circle, we're gonna have a bunch of teeth, but I'm gonna show you how I would do it because I think this way is more efficient. So I'm gonna make a new design in Fusion. I'm gonna create a sketch over here. I'm gonna choose this top plane. You can choose any plane, it doesn't really matter. Over here, I'm going to make a circle, just like we did before. How about I make this, I don't know, 100 millimeters, just because I feel like that. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sketch the tooth profile, right? So I'm going to create like half of a tooth, and what we're going to do is we're going to copy it multiple times to create the whole gear, right? So over here, I'm going to start by making a line vertically from the center, just like this. I'm going to go out horizontally and then down like that. I'm going to change this one to construction line. So what a construction line does is it allows you to reference it while you're in the sketch, but it will basically ignore it when you go to extrude things. So it's pretty useful, just construction lines in general. It'll help you like make your extrusions a little bit easier. But yeah, anyways, I'm gonna add some dimensions, gonna make everything fully constrained. I'm gonna set this distance, I don't know, let's say 85. I want this angle, say it's 100, and then I'm gonna set this distance to be like 10. Over here you can see it's not fully constrained because the whole tooth is like moving side to side, so we don't want that. So I'm gonna constrain this line, this construction line, to be I believe coincident with this. Yeah, so the coincident tool will work even if the two parts are not touching each other physically. So you saw like how I made this line and this circle, or the center of the circle, coincident. And you could see like if I drew a longer imaginary line, it would go through this point, right? But it's not in the sketch, but Fusion will do that, which is cool. Is everyone up to this point? Yeah? All right. So what I'm going to do now, we have half a tooth, right? I'm going to make the other half by mirroring it. So the mirror tool should be under create and then mirror. This pop-up will come up. It'll say objects and mirror line. So the objects that I want to mirror are these two lines. So I'm going to mirror this like kind of diagonal line and then this horizontal line. And then the mirror line will be this construction line that we made earlier, right? So if I click on it, it'll give me a preview, and now you can see that we have one tooth. Okay, he'll get to you, I think. Okay, does that make sense to everyone? Yeah. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. So now that we have one full tooth, we're gonna create a bunch of them, right? And the nice thing right now is that if I change the tooth, the mirrored image of it will also change, right? So if I change this from 85 to like 60, this tooth is like smaller now, which is nice. I'm gonna change it to like 70. All right. So we use the mirror tool, and now we can use the circular pattern tool. So this is also useful when like basically making copies in a circle. The rectangular pattern will do it, but linearly, if that makes sense. But we're going to do the circular pattern because we're making a gear. For objects, again, I'm going to select these lines. I'm going to select all 4 of them this time. The center point would be the center of the circle. And then you can see it's giving me a preview of more gears, right? You can change the distribution. Full will basically set them to all be evenly spaced apart. But you can change it to like partial, meaning like you would only go 180 degrees, or you could change it, but I'm gonna change it. Gonna keep it at full, and then I can specify the number of teeth I want, right? So I could add like I could have like 9 teeth, have a really toothy gear, or I could do like 7 teeth, or yeah. Now I have like less teeth. It's kind of cool. But yeah, I'm just gonna say I want 10 teeth, and bam, now we have a bunch of teeth that we can all change from one sketch, right? So if I change this again to 75, you see all of them change. So again, I'm just trying to teach you this because it's like good practice. So you don't have to go out and like change each of these teeth individually, right? You can edit one tooth and everything will change. So I like this. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm going to press finish sketch, and then I'm going to extrude it just like we did it before. It's going to ask you to select like the different profiles. Because each tooth is its own closed profile, it's going to ask you to select it individually. So I selected all of them. I'm going to do some distance, maybe like 30. And yeah, we have a tooth. Is everyone good? Yeah? All right, cool. So if you look in the on the slides, this tooth has a hole in it, and if you look really closely, it has little threads on it, right? So Fusion has a hole tool, which is pretty useful when making holes. Um, there's a good reason for why we recommend you use this hole tool instead of creating sketches and extrusions, because you very well could just like create a sketch, make a hole in the center, and then like do a negative extrusion, and then you'd have a hole, um, which works. But the cool thing about Fusion is that it is kind of like a whole process from like sketch to design all the way to manufacturing, right? And if you use the hole tool, you'll like have more data for the person manufacturing your part, right? So if you're working alone and you're just kind of doing whatever, it doesn't really matter. But when you kind of work with other people, it's kind of important to kind of try to convey as much information as possible, right? So the whole tool is useful for CAM, which is what people use to program CNC machines. So yeah, if that makes sense to you, great. But if it doesn't, just like make sure you use the hole tool when you want to make a hole, if that makes sense. But yeah, the hole tool is up here next to the revolve button. I'm going to click it, and it's going to ask me to make a hole. If you want to make a bunch of different holes in precise locations, you can create a sketch and then add a bunch of points, and then click those points when you're using the hole tool, But for me, I'm just going to click on the origin today because that's kind of where we're putting this hole. So I'm just going to click on the origin, I think. Yeah, right there. So we have this lovely hole. On the right here, it'll allow us to change the hole size and all this stuff. So this is why it's important, right? There's a bunch of different different kind of holes types that you could have, and it makes it convenient for you because you can just like press one of them and it'll do it. But it'll also retain a lot of information for the person manufacturing it, right? In this case, you want a tapped hole, which means it has threads in it like a bolt. So over here, there's hole tap type. Simple just means it's not tapped. But over here, it says tapped, right? So if I click on it, it'll give me a preview. You can see it has threads on it. And then you see over here, there's a bunch of different options for like the type of hole, the thread pitch, and stuff like that. This is why we highly recommend you use the hole tool, because again, when someone goes to manufacture it, they get all this data, right? But if you made a negative extrusion, they wouldn't have any of this. So then they wouldn't know what you want, and then they're going to be confused and sad. So yeah, use the hole tool. It's great. I'm happy with this, so I'm going to press OK, and there you go. Now you have a hole with threads in it. Does that make sense? Awesome. Okay. So the next assignment is the hair dryer. This was going to be a little bit different from the gear because we're going to be messing with offsetted planes. So this is pretty fun. I'm going to make a new design over here. And then, so if you see on this slide, you can see these like orange squares that are like on these circles. Those are planes, right? So when you go to create a sketch, you're going to get 3 planes by default. But there are times that you would want to create more, right? So in this case, we're going to create 3 more planes offset to one of the planes on the origin. And to do that, we're going to add some construction planes. So if you go under construct, there's a bunch of different options on planes. We're going to be using offset planes, and I'll probably do a mid plane today just so you can see that there's a bunch of different ones. But yeah, there's a bunch of different planes. They're pretty cool. I'm just going to start with a simple offset plane. So I clicked offset. I'm going to choose a plane. For me, I'm going to choose this top plane right here. And then it'll ask me how far do you want to create this offset plane, right? So let's just say I want it to be 30 millimeters away. I'm going to press OK. And then you're going to see, you can kind of see with the grids that this plane is like floating above like the gridded lines, which is what we want, right? If I like show the origin, you can also see how there's like a distance between those two, right? So that's good. I'm going to create another offset plane. If it lets me, I'd be lagging. Okay. I'm going to make this like 15. So now we have 2 of them. Maybe I'll make this more. I want to edit it. I'm going to go down in the timeline. Let's make it 20. How about that? Okay. And then I'm going to do mid plane for this one. It's just kind of like midpoint in the sketches, but it's creating a plane instead of a sketch or a line. So I'm going to click these 2, and then you see it like automatically creates a plane in between them that's like exactly in the center. I think I made this distance like 30, so that means this one's like exactly 15 away. I like that, so I'm going to press OK. And now if you did it right, you should have 3 more planes sticking out from the origin. Who is not up to this point? Okay, cool. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a bunch of sketches, right? So you can see in the PowerPoint, there are these 4 circles and they're not on top of each other. It's because they're created in their own planes, right? We just created 4 planes and then we're going to make 4 circles on those planes. So I'm going to start with the origin, right? So I'm going to create a sketch. I'm going to select this one. I'm going to drag this out a little bit. Whoa. So about 15. All right, so I'm going to finish it, and then I'm not going to extrude it yet. So I'm going to create another sketch on the plane above it. Let's make this one a little bit bigger, so maybe like 5. Sorry, my computer is like kind of lagging. So, okay. So we made another one. I'm gonna sketch another one. This one's gonna be maybe a little bit smaller, maybe like 20. And the last one. Uh, 25. Okay, maybe I want to make this one bigger. Okay, so now you see we have like this almost like a Christmas tree kind of stack of circles. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create a loft. So what it's going to do is it's going to create a profile that smoothly connects all 4 of these circles. So it creates a nice solid body, right? So over here, there's the loft tool. It kind of gives you a preview of what's going to happen. Profiles.
Make sure that you can use loft tools between 2 profiles, but not along the line. A lot of people I've seen make that mistake that they use the loft tool along profiles. And I just want to make sure that you're clear that you only use planes or profiles to use the loft tool and not lines.
Yeah, so it has to be a closed body. Yeah, so these circles are closed bodies.
Yeah.
So you can't be like a square with one of the lines cut off, because then Fusion will get confused because it can't create a loft if it's not closed. So I selected them all in order. It looks like this little hairdryer trumpet thing. I'm gonna press OK, and there we go. We have this nice loft hairdryer body, right? Or the head of the hairdryer. Who's not at this point yet? Okay.
guys have any questions? Yes. Wait, I'm assuming everybody else is about to fail.
Okay. I'm just gonna move on. If you have questions, raise your hand. He can help you. Um, whoa. Okay. So yeah, we have the body of the hair dryer or the head of it, but we want it to be nice and hollow, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a shell, right? So a shell basically will hollow out your part, so it has like a thin wall or a wall of specified width. So I'm gonna click the shell tool, which is right next to the fillet tool up here. I'm gonna select the top, and then it's gonna ask for the thickness, right? So it's basically asking for the wall thickness of this hair dryer. So let's say like 10, or no, that's too much. Like 5, 2. Okay, yeah. So you see, like when I change the number, the thickness of the hair dryer changes. So the shell is cool because it creates like a constant like wall thickness throughout the whole part, even though it's curved. Uh, this is just kind of cool. Like, don't do this, but if you like select the bottom of it, if it lets me, I don't know. It's not letting me right now. But if you select like both sides, it'll basically hollow out the whole thing. But yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was cool. Anyways, I'm gonna press OK. We have a nice hollow head. It almost looks like a vase. But now I'm gonna round the edge a little bit with a fillet. So right here next to the shell tool, over here. Stop lagging. Sorry, my computer is kind of dying. Yeah, so I'm just gonna add like a 1 millimeter fillet. You can add whatever distance you want, but it's nice and round. It won't cut you. That's nice. But yeah, now we're gonna start making like the handle for it, right? So to do this, I'm gonna create a plane. I'm gonna create a tangent plane, I think. No. Oh wait, no, I forgot. Sorry. I'm gonna create an offset plane. So I'm gonna select one of these planes. I'm not selecting the top plane because I'm creating a handle that's gonna go out like perpendicular to this head. So I'm gonna offset the plane so it's like outside of the body. Actually, no, I won't. I'm actually not going to create a plane, so I can show you something else. Sorry. So I'm just going to create a sketch on this plane right here, and then I'm going to create a circle. Whoa, I'd be lagging. I'm going to constrain this to be vertical. I'm going to make this like 15 millimeters and make this distance like 10. Yeah. Okay, so you see, now I have like this circle inside of the head. I'm going to extrude it out. I'm going to change it to join. How about yeah, 60. Okay. and then I'm going to press OK. So again, there's like many ways of doing this. Like I could have created that offset plane, but I won't do that today. But now if you notice, there's like a cylinder sticking inside of the head, right? So we don't like this, right? I wouldn't want this to be my hair dryer. I think the airflow would be kind of bad, right? So yeah, if there would be at all. Anyways, the cool thing about Fusion, right, is using your timeline, you can move things around, right? So in this case, let's say I want to shell out the whole thing. So instead of like just the vase part, I can shell out the whole body. So like let's say I want to put like electronics or something inside the handle. I can change it by moving the shell from um, here to over here, right? So I just dragged the shell from the timeline and I moved it over here. And now you can see it's empty, right? It shelled out both the head part and the handle. So I don't know if you can see it, but you can see the handle is now hollow too, right? So again, that's just another thing that you can do with Fusion. It's very powerful, allows you to do cool things like that. But yeah, the next thing, oh yeah, you can see in this example they created offset plane, but I didn't do it. You don't have to do it that way. I'm gonna add a chamfer to the outside. So over modify, right next to fillet or under fillet, there's chamfer. So instead of creating like a rounded edge, it'll create like a little angled edge. So again, maybe do like 1 millimeter. Yeah, there we go. We have a nice chamfered edge. But now we're gonna create the wire, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna first create a circle in the center um, of the handle, and then I'm gonna create like a line coming off of it, right? And we're gonna use something called a sweep to make the wire. It's pretty cool. So to start, I'm gonna make a circle in the center. So sorry, my laptop's kind of blank. Oh, hello. Uh-oh. Okay. Okay. I'm going to use a geometric constraint over here. I'm going to make these two circles concentric. So that'll center this circle on the circle of, or on the end of the cylinder. I like that. I'm going to press OK. And then I'm going to create another sketch. And this is why I asked you to do it on the origin. So I hope you drew your head and everything starting from the origin. But I'm going to use this plane right here. So this plane, if you look at it closely, let's see if I can get you a better view. If you look at it closely, this plane cuts the handle in half, right? It goes through the center of the handle, and we're going to use that for our sweep. If you don't have that, you can create another plane and make it offset so it is centered, but that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to select this one. It's going to fly to like a sideways view, and then I'm going to draw the wire, right? I'm going to start from the center over here. I just drew a straight line, but then I want this to be a little bit curvy, so I'm going to make a fit point spline, and then it'll kind of just like let us create like a more organic looking wire. So I'm going to start from this point, and then I'm just going to draw away with my wire. And then when I'm done, I'm going to press this check mark. to make the wire flow smoothly, I'm going to create another geometric constraint, right? So I'm going to make this spline tangent to this line here. You can see, makes it nice and smooth. And then, yeah, so you can kind of see the profile of the wire and where it's going to go. I'm happy with that. I'm going to press Finish Sketch. And then now I'm going to create a sweep, right? So right here, it basically shows what we're going to do. We're going to select the circle, and then it's going to follow the path of the line to create our wire, right? So again, there's a bunch of options over here. The profile is, I believe, the circle that we're doing. So we want that. And then the path is the path that the circle is going to follow, right? So if I click on this, it'll follow the path of the circle or of the line we created. And then we have this nice and solid wire. I'm happy with that. I'm going to press OK. And there we go. We have a nice hair dryer. And again, if your hair dryer looks a bit weird, you can go back and change it. You can change any of the sketches you want. Like for this one, let's say I want the end to be a little bit larger, maybe like 40. Like what if I wanted it to be like super wide? There we go. Kind of looks like an air horn now, but yeah. Is that good? Does that make sense? All right. So yeah, that was kind of all the demos I had today. Your homework assignment. This is one of the harder assignments of this class, but it's gonna ask you to create a sketch with or it's gonna ask you to sketch this, right? So this is like a extrusion profile. If you've ever done any like I don't know designing or building, sometimes you'll encounter stuff like this. It's really cool because you can kind of just like cut it to length, and you can put things called T-slots into these little cutouts, and then you can mount a bunch of stuff to it. So it's really convenient. And if you ever design things, consider using them. Um, but yeah, your homework for this week is to copy this sketch using dimensional and geometric constraints, right? And so your goal is to uh, limit the number of dimensional constraints and then only just use geometric constraints, right? And then the reason being is that if you wanted to change it, then you could change like one number and then it will kind of change the whole sketch with it. I hope that makes sense, but um, when you create more complex parts, you're gonna wanna use more geometric constraints, right? So in this photo right here, I noticed that it doesn't actually have all the geometric constraints that you need. So in the next slide, it has all the correct ones. So you shouldn't need to use these dimensions more than once, right? Um, so all of these are all that you need to create it. Um, yeah, so you shouldn't like if you have the geometric constraint twice, then you did something wrong or you're missing a geometric constraint. So did I say geometric twice? I mean dimensional. So if you're using the dimensional constraint more than once, then you did something wrong. A good hint for this, I like to use like construction square. So I just made a bunch of lines, and I made them all construction lines. You can kind of see here, like this right here. There's a square kind of creating like a quarter section of the extrusion profile, and then I just mirrored it onto this diagonal line here, and then I did a circular pattern to create all four, if that makes sense.
Also, I noticed some people having trouble like making construction lines. So an easier way to do it is just make a simple line, select the line and press X. that will convert it to a construction line. And if you want to convert a construction line back to a normal line, select that line, press X, and you'll be able to convert it back.
Yeah. I guess I can do that real quick.
Yeah.
So if you don't know how to create a construction line, I'm just going to create one now. Oops. So here's my regular line, right? I mean, this one's blue, but here. I'm just going to make it black real quick. Damn, that's super long. Okay. Okay, so we have this line, right? This one's fully constrained. If you want to make it construction, it'll be like a dashed line, right? So over here, you can press X, or you can go over here, under line type, construction, right? If you click construction, you see it's not like a solid line anymore. It's a dashed line. So construction lines are useful. It is useful in your homework, so I recommend you use that. This was drawn up in another program, so just like even if you screenshotted it, I would know that this is not Fusion. So yeah, don't just like screenshot this. But yeah, use a lot of parallels, perpendiculars. A lot of these things are parallel and perpendicular. A lot of these radii are also equal. So this radius right here is equal to these two. But yeah, you can kind of see in this program, the geometric constraints kind of show up as green. So you can kind of see like these are parallel. It's just showing you that some things are parallel. But yeah, if you have any questions, please ask. This is probably one of the more difficult ones, so I am fully expecting some of you to ask questions, which is okay. But yeah, that's basically it for today. We're ending a little bit early. You feel free to stick around and do the homework now while I'm here, or if you have other questions, you can ask us. If you want snacks, you can take it for the road. It's totally cool. But yeah, thank you again. See you next week on Tuesday.